Hi, everyone. Welcome to the final week of Growing Food Justice. We are going to resume our regular programming in just a few minutes, but I wanted to speak to you openly and honestly without any script about what we've been feeling lately, what's been happening to and around us. We've seen the murder and death of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and it's really caused me to pause and reflect on my complicity in maintaining a racist society in our country and our community. And to be honest, for many years, I've been addressing food security and food access, but that work alone has not addressed systematic racism that has permeated our food system. I think about how, as a country, we drove indigenous people off their land, how we enslaved Africans, the legacy of redlining, the plight of farm workers, and even more recently, racial discrimination against African American farmers and its allocation of farm loans and assistance, and how it's caused majority melanated people to disproportionately suffer from gaps in wealth and power and environmental conditions. I want to take a moment of silence before we get started today. And then I'll end on a note of hope, and we'll hear from Walt Bonham from Mansfield. So if you wouldn't mind to just join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. West Africans developed the practice of irrigation and composting, hydraulics, and other farm practices. Ancestral grandmothers braided seeds in their hair before being forced to board transatlantic slave ships. The wealth of this country was built by Africans and their agricultural wisdom. Harriet Tubman and others were in deep relationship with the landscape to escape the brutal conditions of slavery. Civil rights leaders developed Black-owned grocery stores, and modern-day activists have catalyzed reparations initiatives to return land to its people. Here in this moment, in this time and space in history, on June 9th, 2020, I hope that you'll join me in finding your own part of the movement and supporting Black, Indigenous people of color in Marion. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to week 5, our final week. I'm so excited today because we have Walt Bonham from Mansfield. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm so excited because, as you can see, Walt is coming to us right live from the garden. We're going to talk to him and learn more about what he's doing out there, how he got started. So, Walt, if you don't mind just telling us about yourself and about urban agriculture, how you got involved in this project.
Well, yeah, as you said, my name is Walter Bonham. I'm a founder of a small business, the Food Lab, and I'm also a farmer in Mansfield, Ohio, part of a group of farmers, and we all formed the Richland Grow Op, which is a cooperative located, home base in Mansfield, Ohio, but made up of farmers in Richland County. And on the urban aspect of it, it's 5 urban farmers in our cooperative right now, and I'm definitely proud to be on one of them. And we kind of got into it through a bunch of us collectively being a part of a calling for a special project that kind of happened out here in Mansfield, Ohio, and we kind of all band together to form a cooperative and to start microfarming things, which I'm sure we'll discuss about it. But that's kind of what kind of got me into it, was just the overall project behind this, our whole mission in urban farm here, and then also partnering with the NDCIC.
Yeah, for folks that have never heard of NECIC, is that the acronym? Like, what is that, and what does that organization do in relationship to what you're doing out at the microfarm?
Well, the NECIC stands for the North End Improvement Community Collaborative, right? And they've had a mission in my hometown here in Mansfield was to improve the north end of my city, which was seen for years as a more troublesome area. And they've done a tremendous job over the years, really visiting some of the bigger issues that the community kind of has on the north end, and then also helping the city as a whole. And one of the missions, a part of the mission that they had with some of the food work that they've done over the years was to get more involved in food. And they even had a farmer's market for years, and that kind of helped stimulate us being able to have the urban farm out here. On top of them also giving out community grants, garden grants and things for people who were interested in farming, interested in growing vegetables. And so when this project came about to be a part of this microfarm project and to actually try to start urban farming kind of emphasis with the project as well, NECIC was already in great position to get involved because they did a lot of that community work and had already been showing interest in the growers and in the growing community.
And in Mansfield, you described the farm as microfarms. What does that mean?
Well, our microfarm is it's kind of the way that the project was set up. We the 10 of us that I spoke about earlier are all part of a larger grant that was kind of established to see what it would kind of look like to create a small farm for an individual farmer that they can handle pretty much themselves. So about with 1.5 persons could handle, and then actually taking everybody and aggregating all their crops and vegetables all together. So instead of me individually trying to compete with one big farmer, me and a couple of other folks, we all grow similar crops or the same crops or different style crops, and we pull all of our crops together and aggregate them all at once, so that way we can compete with bigger markets. So the way that we kind of have it set up now on our urban farm location, 311 Bowman, Mansfield, Ohio, the NECIC actually has 12 overall acres. And on the 12 acres, they house 4 farmers, with myself being one of them, NECIC being one of them, and then 2 other farmers. They kind of come outside and kind of see. We have, we also have a makeup of about 10 outside beds per farmer. So there are 8 32-foot beds inside, and there are 10 64-foot beds outside. And so that general space right there is what consists of kind of one micro farm, and that's kind of enough work for an individual with a little help, of course, to kind of take on themselves and not even be considered to have to be full-time farming, but be a way to create extra income for the farmer. So that's kind of the way it was all set up, to be able to create little micro farms that you can still do other things with your life, still maintain other aspects of having a business and things and so on. All 10 other farm owners are small businesses, and then you can still be able to contribute to the food kind of our natural food calling as a whole, by all collaborating and aggregating together instead of all of us trying to take on a big time farming individual.
Yeah, I think what's so unique is, like in Marion, we have a lot of community gardens, we have a lot of school gardens, but the idea of this being like workforce development and earning that extra income, has that been realized? Are people actually like supplementing some of their income and making profit from the gardens here?
Yeah, see, the way our program was set up, well, see, that's the thing too. Like, none of us are actually gardening; all of us are farming. We are all growing food for others and not growing it personally, and growing on a larger scale in comparison to what we need. So a lot of it came with our training and things. I'm sorry, I lost you in the question there. We have to edit that part. But
I just wondered, like, I think you kind of answered it, that people are making income, like there's enough extra income.
Yeah, as far as people making income, after we came out of training, now that we're out of training, we've all got the experience now to start growing on our own. And and we actually, our farmers are receiving their first checks here actually real soon from our spring crop. So this is our first full year as individual independent farmers outside of training, and people are now starting to receive those checks from the work that they've been putting in.
That's
And
amazing.
it does actually really work too. We have a few different kind of scales and dynamics of people that are kind of working on the farm and doing this stuff, and everybody's still working. Some people are working normal jobs. Some people like myself are maintaining small businesses and doing other things with their business outside of farming, and then still able to meet our harvest goals and our harvest needs and be able to receive income through our cooperative as well.
I just think that's so amazing because it's like moving towards food sovereignty, which to me relates to food justice, is how do we create and maintain our own systems of production. And right now in this time that we're living in with the virus and the protests, like we're seeing these traditional systems failing us.
Right.
And this idea of growing your own allows you to operate outside of the reliance of capitalism.
Right, absolutely. And working with tighter markets, kind of really, creates a huge advantage for us as well. Like with our marketer, the way that our cooperative is set up is that the farmer is informed is told what to grow, informed on what to grow by the marketer, and in that way, our product is sold. So, like just last week, I harvested 613 pounds of carrots. My goal was 650 pounds. So I was a little shy of what my marketer required me to grow. But I knew as a farmer that I didn't have to worry about a farmer's market or CSA or anything. I knew that all those carrots were sold and they were pre-sold before I even grew them. So, having different things like that kind of happen as a farmer makes it a lot easier for you. And then on top of that, it saves you a lot of money, saves you a lot of time, saves you a lot of money, saves you a lot of energy. And what I can do is just focus on producing good vegetables and then getting it to the aggregate site and letting my cooperative and the business we created take care of the distribution and everything else. So it's like a simplified, more intimate model that is it's kind of a lot tighter, tightly niched in a way that when you do have things like this that go on and things that we face now, it actually creates more of a demand for what we're doing because you don't have other states kind of expecting to feed no states real far away. Like we created a brand new dot on the supply chain now in Mansfield that we have carrots, we have lettuce, we have tomatoes now, we have pounds and pounds and thousands of pounds, hundreds of pounds of these different crops now, and we can kind of make an impact now.
That's incredible, and it's really inspiring, and it brings me a lot of joy just hearing about that. I'm also like laughing because I'm just trying to imagine what 650 pounds of carrots look like. Yeah. That's incredible. And I think a lot of folks that listen are really going to like this idea of like how you talked about this is a new dot on the supply chain, like in Mansfield, Ohio.
Right, and on this 12-acre site that we have here, I mean, we're only using roughly about 2 acres for our 4 microfarms. So, we're not even taking up a large footprint, but we're able to produce, tons of food out of this couple acre, area that is making a difference in our community. And also too, the site before this was just a brownfield. So now it's become a place that we are going to host our farmers market at. We looked and talked to a gentleman about having a community event, a nice art community event out here today. And it just gives us a new platform now to connect to the community through using food.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm really inspired, and I'm already thinking of ways that maybe we can have some folks in Marion get more connected to your work. What have been some of the challenges? It seems like there's just been so much opportunity and so much success for you, but what are some lessons that you've learned along the way?
I would say that there's definitely, tons of challenges, man. Like, I would say this kind of being a farmer, period, is a challenge. You got to always be willing to embrace the daily challenges. But I would say some of the biggest challenges that we had were just kind of like how in the world do you create an urban farm atmosphere for, we got five farmers total in this area, but four farmers on one site and so on, and water and excavating and so on. I mean, so those were kind of if anything, that was kind of the biggest challenge, is like how you take this idea of urban farming and get it in your community. And the biggest way that we overcame that challenge, and this is where the NECIC played a huge role, is by being really, really tightly connected with your community. And the NECIC been a nonprofit that had been established in the community for years. When it came time to do this type of work, I mean, people were phone calls away, versus people never had even shook hands, or not even knowing each other, or not even, really being connected. So I would say that was the biggest challenge that I kind of faced, that we kind of were already somewhat prepared for, was just kind of the how aspect. And that's just really getting heavily involved with your community, finding those advocates in different departments in different areas that want to get involved and that want to help, and staying focused on the prize and the goal. I mean, this was a 2+ year effort. So, it didn't come immediately, but we have it up now, and we feel really good about where it's at now.
Were you farming before? Like, how did you enter this agricultural space? Like, how did you learn how to do all this?
Well, what the fun part about this project and the way that it went, the way that the project was even designed, because we had a few major partners, NECIC, Richland Chambers, and OSU, and a few other partners, of course, were a part of getting this grant even started and going. And the way that we kind of designed it in the first place, it was to be able to help people who may not know everything about farming and didn't know, and didn't have all the resources and things to get started. And I was kind of definitely one of those people. I was somebody that was highly interested in growing food, but I didn't have land. I didn't have all the skills needed, but I was a gardener. I was a gardener though, right? I just barely had started growing food on my own a little bit. And what kind of got everybody's attention on getting started with this project was when they started doing some community outreach. So when it was all just a thought, it was all just a bunch of words on paper, initial words on paper. They did some community outreach and wanted to see, like, hey, if this thing really did happen, who would want to join this? Who would want to be involved? Is this something that would be even possible? And I was one of those people that was at one of the very, very initial early meetings that was like, yeah, I would really want to be involved in this, and I really think this is possible. And I was able to stay with the project, over the years, just to continue to kind of build it all step by step. So that's kind of really how I got it. And it was just by them even creating the awareness to be able to capture the attention of those who wanted to do this, and then creating the opportunity for people to get involved. So me personally, I kind of wanted to make some changes in my personal life, and got interested in growing vegetables, and had a great uncle that grew vegetables. You can go get full in his backyard, but then by them presenting the opportunity like this to, hey, collectively, hey guys, let's all get together and think about how to solve this problem, that created the opportunity that I'm a part of now.
I love that. And I love how you're describing that tension, because I think there might be young people that watch this and they think this isn't for them. They think of gardening and they think of grandmas, or they think of gardening, and there's a lot of trauma that has happened around Black people in the land. And so how do you view this as like empowering and liberating, and not associated with some deep, painful past?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you said that too, and I'm glad that you comfortably brought that up, because I've had to deal with that. I talk about farming, and people are talking about slavery, and I'm over here. It's a disconnect that we have. It's a disconnect of shared information, and this kind of a generalized ignorance around Black people working outside and happening to immediately associate it with slavery. Well, there's some huge differences. One, I'm not sharecropping or anything. I'm not growing anything for anybody else. I'm growing it for myself. I'm growing it a part of an independent business, and I'm also growing it as part of being a part of with another businesses and other businesses and things too. So, when I do hear that type of rhetoric and things, I try to combat it with the facts of what's really going on here, and then the importance of owning land, and the importance of knowing how to be somewhat, at least somewhat self-sustainable, and the importance of just being able to connect with nature. and those type of things is how I've had to personally combat that kind of rhetoric, that kind of negative rhetoric that is associated with slavery and farming and things. But it is something that I feel like needs to be addressed on a higher scale because not too long ago, there were a lot more black farmers than there are now, and there are a lot more black farmers who own their land, than there are now. Now we're low single digits of even just representation of the farmers out there, period, in comparison to what it used to be, short time ago.
I love that. And as you were talking, and like when we first joined the call, I was smiling so big because to me, this imagery with the blue sky in your background and seeing all your crops, like I've really explored this idea of land as liberation. And I'm so inspired by Leah Penniman's work and thinking about Extension being an organization that is predominantly white people, and the people that are teaching agriculture are predominantly white and teaching white methods to farming, and maybe not thinking about ways that we've colonized practices of agriculture, and like how do we bring in those Black Indigenous practices. And with everything that's going on with the protests too, like thinking how do we not just view the Black community with trauma. Like I see you out there and I see like the joy and the excitement and the success and the contributions. Like this is what we need to be showing and telling people.
No, I
just
couldn't agree more with you about that.
So the title of this series is Growing Food Justice, and I think we have to talk about racial justice too, but that might be another series. How do you define food justice, and how do you see racial justice intertwined with that?
Oh man, I think it could probably be defined in like a lot of different ways. I mean, one of the big, I guess if I was to look at it kind of me personally, one of the big definers to me is just the knowledge. Just the flat out, education aspect of like, understanding where your food comes from, understanding how life works, understanding the difference between some lettuce that you grew in your backyard and, what you get at the store, and, and those type of things. And there's also too, just understanding the importance of food and, food being your medicine and those different things. I think a lot of the injustice has happened through the lack of education, in my eyes, personally. People say that eating good is expensive, but it's actually more expensive to eat bad. And I learned that, in my journey to get to where I'm at now. And that was a hard concept for me to kind of understand at first. But then I started really kind of seeing it, and not seeing it in my own personal health and seeing it in my family's health and things too. And, that would be the biggest thing to me about the whole injustice, the whole food injustice, personally, is just the lack of education. And that's what and the same ignorance that we talked about even before, the previous question comes through the lack of education. And that's what I try to really harp on when I have volunteers here or anybody working with me. I try to always share those moments that are important, and try to just, enlighten everybody and anybody I can, in the importance of this farming and grow, and not only farming, but really growing food, is really the whole key of it all. It's a skill that, to me, in my eyes, this should be taught in school. Like, everybody coming right out of elementary school should know how to, grow food. If you become a farmer or not, it should just be something that you find important, something that you think of as essential, in your living and so on. So.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I just have a few more questions for you. Some of them are really practical. Like if I'm just getting started, what is some advice that you would have if you're just a beginner grower?
I would say just do exactly like, what I've done, and I know a bunch of growers have done. Just start growing something. Like, don't worry about if you're going to get great yields, and, don't worry about all the nuances that that you kind of have a lack of knowledge about, but just kind of get with your local nursery or I would recommend your local farmer, of course, right? So, get with a local farmer in the area, or even a community gardener in the area, or, something like that for some added knowledge, and just start growing. And also too, I would say, don't be discouraged by not having land. That's something that discouraged me a lot initially from growing. And then I end up just taking, any little corner backyard plot, and I was able to grow a lot more successfully than what I thought, just literally off of just a couple feet in the backyard. And then also too, container gardening, and is a great way to grow food. Kind of starting out is to stick a couple of vegetables inside a container and things. If you're not somebody that has maybe all the time needed to not only learn everything, but to pay attention to growing things properly, you can still have a hint of nature real close to you on your porch or patio or something too.
I love that. I love that your advice is to start somewhere,
Start somewhere, just get out there, yeah, and get educated by those that are doing it.
That's really good advice. And then if folks want to support your co-op, where can they learn more information or make a donation?
Well, right now we have a Facebook page, Richland Grow Up Facebook page. Also, too, if you go to necic.org, we have a farm page on there as well. It'll link you to be able to support us down here at the urban farm, but it also can tie you into all 4 farmers on our site are all tied into the Richland Grow Up as well. So we can get connected to anybody that's interested in learning more about the Richland Grow Up, or donating to the Richland Grow Up, or just supporting our cause. Anyway, in general, we would like for you guys to please reach out.
Thank you so much. Seriously, this is beautiful work. I'm just really happy to have met you and hear more about it, and can't wait to share with others.